The great arena of Kael'tar seethed with life. Thousands of beings pressed together beneath the arching dome of light. The air trembled with anticipation, a heady mix of incense, sweat, and hunger. Above them all, a single platform stood beneath the white-hot glare of 100 spotlights. She stood upon it, chained, displayed, and did not lower her gaze. Princess Sirakai of the Ardent line was many things, feared, coveted, and now betrayed. Her luminous blue skin shimmered beneath the black leather corset forced upon her. Golden chains wrapped her throat and wrists, their ceremonial design mocking her former station. Her long blue hair fell in waves down her back, a crown now stripped away. The crowd roared as the High Overseer raised his voice. By decree of the Council of Dominion, this royal traitor is forfeit. Her line is broken. Her name is Ash. His words rang through the amphitheater. She shall be claimed, by any who dares. The crowd grew louder, leering, shouting figures from 100 worlds. Soldiers, warlords, slavers, all eager to own what none had ever touched. Sirakai stood still. Only her throat moved, swallowing a shard of defiance. And then a ripple moved through the crowd, parting them like smoke before wind. A figure walked forward, tall, lean, wrapped in battered pilot's leathers, stained by war. No insignia, no flag, only the mark of a human, Commander Elias Voss. The guards tensed as he approached. No one expected a Terran here, much less this one. A man whispered, "Is that the one from Karthus Gate?" Another hissed, "Thought he was dead." Elias stopped before the platform, eyes narrowing at the spectacle. He hated these games, he hated this empire. But above all, he hated seeing her, proud and broken, bound beneath the gaze of the filth above. She met his gaze, blue eyes like twin stars, not pleading, no, she would never plead, but beneath that steel was a flicker of something else, recognition, and so he spoke. "I claim her," Elias said. His voice did not waver. The arena fell silent. The High Overseer blinked, amused. "A human?" He laughed. "You cannot—" "I claim her," Elias repeated, stepping onto the platform. His hand rested upon the hilt of a battered blade at his hip. Under Dominion law, any who walks forward before the third chime may claim right. Your own words. The first chime sounded. "You have no standing," the Overseer sneered. "I stand," Elias said coldly, "as the last survivor of the Human Consortium Accord, a signatory power." His voice cut through the air. "You will not violate your own law before this crowd." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. The old treaty was dust, but technically alive, barely, just enough. The second chime rang. Sirakai's breath caught. Of all beings, this human. Why? They had met once at a failed negotiation years past. Then he had been cold but honest. Now, there was fire in his eyes. The Overseer hesitated, his voice turned oily. "She is cursed. She will bring ruin upon you. Step down." The third chime began to toll. "I claim her," Elias said once more. Then, without waiting for approval, he stepped fully onto the platform. With a swift motion, he cut the chains at her wrists. The crowd erupted, some in rage, some in dark amusement. Elias reached out a calloused hand. "Come with me," he said quietly. For a single beat, Sirakai did not move. Pride warred with the instinct to survive, but in his eyes she saw no mockery, no hunger, only purpose. She took his hand. Together they descended the steps as the Overseer sputtered behind them. "Seize them!" came the belated cry. Too late. From the edge of the arena, a hidden ship's engines roared to life. Elias pulled her close. "Run!" And they did. The stolen cruiser bucked violently as it burst through the upper atmosphere, buffeted by anti-air flak. Elias kept one hand on the control column and the other over the manual override, ignoring the shrieking alarms that lit up the dash. "We're not going to make it," Sirakai said, her voice calm, too calm. "We'll make it," Elias replied through gritted teeth. "Strap in." I said strap in." She glared at him. For a moment her pride flared, blue and sharp as the heat outside the hull. But then she obeyed, strapping herself into the seat beside him as the cruiser broke through the last turbulence and entered orbit with a bone-jarring lurch. Silence settled, heavy and raw. The stars beyond the viewport glittered like teeth. Behind them, Kael'thar shrank into a poisoned jewel. Sirakai turned to look at him fully now. Her arms still bore the faint gold indentations of the chains. Her chest rose and fell with controlled breath, but her eyes, they were watching, measuring, searching for a motive. "You were supposed to be dead," she said. "I got better," Elias replied, flicking switches. "Now take this," he added, tossing her a small injector. "Antitoxin. The chains were ceremonial, but the gold, laced with dermal neurosuppressants, slow-acting." She caught it mid-air. "You knew they'd use it." "I know how your people treat their royalty when they fall out of favor." Her lip curled. "So noble of you to save me." "I didn't do it to be noble." "Then why?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he plotted a hyperspace jump to a red star system, punching coordinates with more force than necessary. Finally he said, "Because no one else would, and you didn't deserve that." "Don't lie to me, Terran. You don't know what I deserve." "Don't pretend you wanted to die up there, Princess." The silence that followed was colder than the stars. Elias leaned back in the pilot's chair and ran a hand through his hair. The adrenaline was crashing out of his system now, leaving behind only exhaustion and the bitter taste of burned fuel. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked. Sirakai tilted her head slightly. "I remember a diplomat's escort from the Accord. You barely spoke." "I wasn't there to talk." "I remember you refused wine and said nothing during dinner." "Because your generals were bragging about the siege of Varn Station, where half my unit died." Her eyes dropped, just for a second. Then she folded her arms. "And now you've dragged me out of a perfectly good execution and into what? Exile? Captivity? Is this your revenge?" Elias didn't flinch. "You're not a prisoner, Sira." She blinked at the use of her real name. Not princess, not royal, just her. "I don't need your pity." "Good," he said, rising to his feet and walking past her, "because I don't have any to give." The cruiser's cabin was Spartan, cold alloy walls, ration packs, and a single med unit glowing quietly in the rear bay. Elias moved to it, removing his jacket and exposing a deep wound along his side, burned clean through the armor plating. Sirakai followed him with her gaze. "You're bleeding." "I noticed," he grunted. She stepped closer, not out of sympathy, not exactly. But something else stirred beneath the veneer of command. Curiosity, maybe, or the same buried instinct that had made her take his hand back on the platform. "You were hit during the escape?" "Yeah." "You didn't say anything." He winced as he applied a coagulant foam. "Didn't think it mattered." "Why?" "Because I've been bleeding for years. One more time didn't change much." That silenced her. For a long beat, neither of them spoke. The hum of the ship filled the void between them. Outside, the stars rolled slowly, unfeeling. Then she said, "I never wanted the throne." Elias looked up, surprised. She wasn't watching him now. She was staring at her own hands, as if seeing them for the first time without the weight of command rings or expectation. "They crowned me before I had blood on my hands," she continued, "before I knew what ruling cost. By the time I understood, I was already someone else." "You mean what they made you into?" Sira nodded slowly. "And when I spoke against the purification order on Valexis 3, they called it heresy, treason. I was trying to spare lives, that was the crime." Elias's jaw clenched. "So they put you in chains and painted me a monster." He sat down across from her now, the wound dressed. His expression softened, a rare thing. "I've killed more people than I remember," he said. "Watched good men die for lines on maps that don't even exist anymore. But you," his voice caught, "you stood alone." "I failed," she whispered. "No," he said. "You changed." Their eyes locked. Something unseen shifted between them. Not attraction, not yet, but understanding, recognition, the subtle gravity of two broken orbits crossing paths. "I should hate you," she murmured. "You probably will tomorrow. But right now," he didn't move. She reached forward slowly, tracing the burn scar that ran along his shoulder. The moment held, delicate, dangerous, trembling on the edge of something neither of them dared name. Then the ship lurched again. Elias shot to his feet. "We've been tagged." Sierra followed him to the cockpit. The console blinked furiously. Tracking beacon, low-frequency pulse, they must have embedded it under the skin. Her hand shot to her collarbone. "No," Elias said. "Let me." She hesitated, then nodded. He moved close, drawing a small field knife. She bared her shoulder to him, breathing hard. Their proximity was magnetic, charged. He cut gently, carefully, and removed the thin, glowing chip embedded just under the skin. Her blood ran bright silver. He crushed it beneath his boot. "Gone," he said softly. But neither of them stepped back. For a breathless second, the stars turned in silence, and the space between them was no longer empty. They fled into the uncharted systems, the forgotten bones of the Orion Verge, where ancient wrecks drifted among dead stars. Here, the Dominion's reach was thin. For a time they were shadows. But shadows grew long. The ship was running low on fuel. The navcom had gone cold twice, and deep in the cabin, beneath forced calm, tension coiled. "You need rest," Elias said. Sirakai sat at the viewport, watching the pale light of a distant blue giant. Her corset was gone now, traded for one of Elias's spare shirts and a wrapped sash. Her posture remained regal, but her eyes were tired. "I cannot rest," she said. "Not while we are hunted. They won't find us. Not here. They always find what they want." Elias crossed his arms, leaning against the bulkhead. "You think you're still the center of their universe." "I was," she said quietly. "Now I am a scar they must erase." He studied her in the dim light, the curve of her shoulders, the small tremor in her hands. Pride was her armor, but inside she was fracturing. "You spoke up," he said, "against genocide. It changed nothing. It changed you." At that, her composure wavered. For the first time her voice cracked, soft, bitter. "I was supposed to be untouchable, the blood of kings, the chosen heir, but they would rather see me a spectacle in chains than hear the truth." Elias didn't speak. He understood too well the weight of a life worn like a mask. After a moment, he pushed off the wall. "There's a place, a fuel outpost. We'll risk it." She turned sharply. "It could be a trap." "Everything's a trap. But without fuel, this ship becomes our tomb." She rose and followed him to the cockpit. The outpost was carved into an asteroid's hollowed core, a remnant of some forgotten mining venture. Only the desperate came here. Elias docked without ceremony. "Stay close," he said, checking the pulse rifle slung across his back. Sirakai nodded, her expression unreadable. Yet as they descended the boarding ramp, her hand brushed briefly against his arm, unthinking, instinctive. He noticed. Inside the outpost, the air reeked of burnt oil and old fear. Elias paid a grizzled mechanic in sovereign coins, while Sirakai stood tense, sensing every eye on her. Her blue skin marked her instantly, a prize, a target. One drunken miner leered. "Pretty thing, that one. New acquisition?" Before Elias could answer, Sirakai stepped forward. Her voice was ice. "I am no one's possession." The man laughed and reached. Elias's fist shattered his nose before the second breath. "Touch her again," he said coldly, "and I'll break more than that." They left quickly, the outpost buzzing with murmurs. Back aboard the cruiser, Elias slammed the hatch shut. His hands shook slightly. "You shouldn't have drawn attention," he said. Sirakai's eyes blazed. "I will not play the mute shadow. Then learn when to pick your battles. I picked one years ago. The price was my life." Her words rang in the cramped cabin, and Elias, tired, raw, finally let his own mask crack. "I lost everyone at Varn," he said. "The Dominion bombed the station after negotiations collapsed. They knew we had civilians. They didn't care." His voice turned jagged. "My squad was buried under debris. I clawed my way out through bodies." Sirakai stared at him. No mockery now, only aching recognition. "That is why you hate us." He met her gaze. I hated what your rulers made you become. But you stood against them." Her voice dropped. "And failed. And lived," Elias said firmly. "That matters." She stepped closer, the ship's hum filling the silence. Her next words were fragile, the kind spoken only when no one is left to judge. "I dreamed once of being more than their weapon. I studied Terran literature. I admired your flawed, stubborn poets. I thought—" her breath caught. "I thought there might be another way." His throat tightened. He saw her then, not as a princess, not as a warrior, but as a woman who had lost her world trying to save it. Without thinking, he reached out, fingertips grazing her cheek. Her skin was cool, soft beneath his calloused hand. "You're not alone anymore," he said. Her breath hitched, not from fear, but from something deeper. Her hand rose to cover his. But then a shudder ran through her body. She gasped, staggering back. Her veins lit faintly beneath the skin, a blue glow spiderwebbing across her arms. "Elias," she whispered, "something is wrong." He caught her before she fell. Later, in the medbay, Elias scanned her with trembling hands. The diagnosis flashed red. "Gods," he muttered. "They dosed the chains with more than neurosuppressants." "What is it?" she rasped. "Nanotoxins, designed to break down your immune lattice." His jaw clenched. "They meant for you to die slow, publicly." She closed her eyes. "Let me go, Elias. You don't owe me this. I'm not losing anyone else. There is no cure." He grabbed a syringe from the med kit. "No Dominion cure, but humans are good at breaking the rules." As he worked, sweat poured down his brow. He modified an ancient Terran antiviral cocktail, one designed during the Plague Wars. "Will it work?" she whispered. "I don't know, but it's the only shot we've got." He injected her. For long minutes she convulsed, body arching, breath ragged. He held her through it, murmuring steady words. Then she went still. Her breathing steadied, the glow faded. Elias slumped, exhaustion crashing over him. But her fingers found his. "Stay," she whispered. He stayed. Through the long hours, he sat by her side, watching the rise and fall of her breath. Somewhere in the dark, his own heart shifted, unmoored, reaching toward something he dared not yet name. When dawn touched the viewport in pale light, her eyes opened, weary but alive. "Elias," she said softly. He leaned in. "I'm here." A tear traced down her cheek. She caught it with trembling fingers, ashamed to show weakness. But Elias caught her hand. "You don't have to fight alone anymore," he said. She closed her eyes. "Then neither do you." In that fragile dawn, a new bond was forged, not yet spoken, not yet complete. But there, in the quiet between them, hope began to grow. 3 days passed. Sirakai recovered slowly. The human serum, crude and untested, had neutralized the toxins, but not without cost. Her body trembled with residual fire. Her senses fluctuated. She began to dream vividly, sometimes waking with words in languages even she didn't recognize. And Elias stayed near. He never hovered, never questioned, just remained, close enough to be constant, distant enough to let her breathe. He cleaned the wound at her shoulder with care. He ran quiet diagnostics. He cooked tasteless ration packs and pretended they were meals worth sharing. And somewhere in the stillness between those tasks, something shifted. She caught herself watching him while he slept in the chair beside the med cot. His jaw slackened in exhaustion. His shoulders, broad and burdened, slumped in peace only found by men who never expected it. He had not claimed her for power, or pleasure, or pride. He had claimed her because no one else would, and that, she realized, was far more dangerous. By the 4th day, Sirakai stood unaided. She joined Elias in the cockpit as the stars unfurled ahead. "We're nearing the convergence line," Elias said without turning. "There's an old listening post on the edge of a Traxxas dust field. We'll stop there, rest, regroup." Sirakai nodded and brushed a hand through her now unbound hair. "What happens after?" she asked. Elias didn't answer. Sirakai sat beside him and said softly, "You haven't asked what claiming me will cost you." I know what it costs, Elias replied. Sirakai turned to him, her voice lower. No, you don't. Not yet. When Elias glanced at her, her expression was unreadable, but her eyes were haunted. My kind are bound by ancient laws, Elias, Sirakai said. Symbolism is everything. When you cut those chains on the platform, it wasn't just defiance. You invoked the right of emergence. Elias blinked. The what? Sirakai exhaled. It's an archaic rule, thought dead. It states that any royal removed from succession and bound for execution may be claimed, not as a slave, not as property, but as a consort, a mate. Elias stood abruptly. Wait, are you saying? Sirakai nodded. You didn't just rescue me, you proposed. He stared at her, speechless. Sirakai rose slowly and said, They will interpret it that way, and so will the people. The moment you touched the chains in public, before the chime ended, you triggered a sacred bond. You and I are now entangled by right. In their eyes, we are joined. That wasn't my intent, Elias said, voice tight. It doesn't matter, Sirakai replied. The ritual is older than intent. Elias began pacing. So what? You're royalty, I'm a fugitive, and now we're married by accident. Not married, Sirakai said, correcting him. Fused. He stopped and stared at her. That sounds worse. There's more, Sirakai said carefully. Of course there is, Elias muttered. Sirakai stepped closer and spoke more quietly. I am not entirely as I appear. The ardent line are not just symbolic rulers. We are biologically selected. My people's bloodline was altered over generations, designed to form bonds, literal bonds, with chosen partners. Ones who defy power, ones who disrupt. Elias frowned. Engineered for loyalty? For unity, Sirakai corrected. Once triggered, the bond begins to imprint. We begin to mirror, emotionally, physiologically. I'll change. You may too. Elias sat heavily and asked, What does this mean for you? It means I can't return home, Sirakai said, voice trembling. It means the moment I touch the soil of Kael'thar again, I become a living symbol of heresy. And for me? Elias asked quietly. You become a heretic by association, Sirakai said, and a target for half the galaxy. Elias exhaled slowly. So, just a normal week. Sirakai actually laughed then, a real sound, startled by her own voice. He smiled faintly and asked, You said we begin to mirror. Is it starting? Sirakai hesitated, then nodded. Yes. How do you know? Elias asked. I dream what you dream, Sirakai said softly. He stiffened. You saw that? Sirakai nodded, her gaze gentle. I saw you in the wreckage, and I stood beside you. Elias turned away. That's not a dream I wanted to share. Yet you did, Sirakai said. Suddenly her breath caught again. Her hand clutched her ribs. Elias, she whispered, something is wrong. He caught her before she fell. Talk to me. My heart, Sirakai gasped. It's sinking. Elias placed his hand over her chest. Her pulse beat fast beneath the skin. And then, he felt it. A sudden echo. His own heart stuttered once, then resumed. But now it beat not just for him. He stepped back. I don't understand. Sirakai looked at him, her blue eyes shimmering. We have hours, maybe days, before the bond completes. And if it does? Elias asked. I won't be able to live without you, Sirakai whispered. The weight of it slammed into him. You should hate me for this, Sirakai said softly. I don't, Elias replied. You should leave, she said. I won't, Elias said firmly. A beat of silence passed, then Sirakai whispered, Then seal it. Elias blinked. Seal? Sirakai stepped forward, close enough that he could feel the energy radiating from her skin. There's a ritual. Not physical, not entirely. It's an imprint, a sharing of memory. Elias hesitated. Will it hurt? Yes, Sirakai said, but only at first. He looked into her eyes. Then show me. She reached for his face, and the world turned white. They stood in a vast field of light, not space, not dream, something in between. Sirakai stood beside him, barefoot on glowing sand. "This is my memory," she said, "my truth, and now it will be yours." Elias watched as visions unfurled, a childhood beneath twin moons, a coronation surrounded by silent enemies, her mother's voice whispering in the dark, "You must always kneel before truth, even when others demand a lie." And then he showed her. A boy in Terran uniform, blood on his boots, carrying a comrade's body through fire. His brother's laughter before the blast took it away. A home planet that stopped sending letters. When it ended, they stood breathless, changed. "I see you now," Sirakai said. "I see you," Elias replied. And the bond sealed, not with pain, with peace. The signal came just after dawn. A sharp pulse through the ship's long-range scanner, ancient frequency, Dominion origin, buried beneath encryption protocols unused in over a decade. Elias frowned as he stared at the console. "They know where we are." Behind him, Sirakai stepped closer. "How?" "Someone cracked the ritual seal," Elias muttered. "The rite of emergence. It's ceremonial, but it's also tracked. Your people watched the moment it was completed." "They know we bonded?" Sirakai asked. "They do now," Elias said grimly. "And they're coming." A red light flashed across the console. 6 ships, heavy Dominion signatures, not scouts, enforcers. Elias looked back at her. "If we run now, we might outrun the closest one." Sirakai shook her head. "We can't run." "We should," Elias said. "You're not strong enough to fight this." Sirakai met his eyes. "They will keep coming. Wherever we go, whatever rock we crawl under, they will find us. The only way forward now is through." Elias stared at her for a long moment. "You're serious." "I am," she said. "But I won't force you. This isn't your war." "It became mine the moment I took your hand," Elias said quietly. Sirakai stepped forward and placed her palm over his chest. "Then fight with me." "I always have," Elias said. They emerged above the black sands of Kael'tar Prime, an ancient battlefield where the Dominion once crushed a rebellion led by Sirakai's great-grandmother. She had been erased from history, her name forbidden to be spoken. Now, Sirakai returned as her echo. The sky above them lit up with approaching warships. Dominion guards in red armor surrounded the platform below. The High Overseer stood at the center, eyes wide with outrage. "Return her at once," the Overseer bellowed. "You have violated sacred law." "We invoked sacred law," Elias shouted from the cruiser's ramp. "You can't twist tradition just because it's inconvenient." Sirakai descended beside him, her blue skin gleaming in the dawn. "You called me traitor," she declared, voice ringing out across the canyon. "But I see now. I was never your heir. I was your hostage." "You betrayed your kind," the Overseer snarled. "You bonded with him, a Terran." "I chose him," Sirakai said, "because he is what you fear, honest, unbroken, and outside your chains." The Overseer raised a hand. "Then you both die." Elias's weapon was already up. "I counted 6 ships. You're down to 4. I mined the asteroid belt behind us." The Overseer froze. "You lie," Elias smirked. "Try me." The air crackled. Then the guards stepped forward. Sirakai turned to Elias. "We can't outgun them." "We don't have to," Elias said. "Just stall them." "For what?" Sirakai asked. "For them to see," Elias replied. He raised a small holoprojector. With a press of his thumb, the bond-sealing ritual activated, projecting their shared memories into the open air. The crowd gasped. Flashes of Sirakai's defiance, Elias's sorrow, their unity in pain and resistance, broadcast in pure psychic energy. Across the sky, Dominion citizens tuned in. Across moons and colonies, the image of a blue-skinned royal and a battered Terran soldier burned into the stars. One of the guards hesitated. Another lowered his rifle. The Overseer shouted, "Don't be fools! That ritual is nothing. She is contaminated." "She is free," Elias said. The Overseer reached for a sidearm. Elias fired first. The blast hit center mass, sending the old man sprawling in the dust. Silence followed. Sirakai stepped forward. "I do not ask for a throne. I ask for a future." A soldier knelt, then another, then all of them. The warships didn't fire. They drifted silently in orbit, awaiting orders that would never come. Elias turned to her. "That was suicide." "That," Sirakai whispered, "was rebirth." Later, in the ruins of the old citadel, Elias leaned against the cracked stone, watching her from afar. She knelt before the scorched altar where her ancestor had once been betrayed. Her hands trembled, not from weakness, but from release. He approached her quietly. "I thought you'd want to rest," Elias said. "I will," Sirakai replied. "But not yet. There's one thing left to do." "What's that?" Elias asked. Sirakai stood and turned to face him. "A vow." He raised an eyebrow. "I thought the bond was sealed." "It is," she said, "but I want to say it aloud." Elias stepped closer. "Then say it." "I vow," Sirakai said, "to never kneel to anything again, not a throne, not a name, not a law, and to never walk forward without you." Elias felt his throat tighten. "I vow to carry your voice when yours falters, to protect your truth when the world denies it, and to walk forward always with you." They stood in silence, breath rising between them like mist. Then she kissed him. Not a desperate kiss, not a broken one, but a slow, deep vow written in skin and breath. When they broke apart, Elias whispered, "So, what now?" "Now?" Sirakai smiled, the kind of smile that once ruled star systems. "Now we make them listen."